All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Alto. I'm actually from Candu, North Dakota. So quite a ways away from Washington, D.C. I was at the Fort DuPont Ice Arena 6 years ago with my uncle, and Coach Ty actually showed me around there. And since I was there 6 years ago, I've kind of kept up with the arena, and it's been a special place in my heart. And so when this opportunity came about to teach a lesson, I thought that would be a super fun thing to do because the arena means a lot to me and my family. Um, you might hear some noises in the background today. We are outside in North Dakota. There's some trains, so you might hear the train siren, and then this siren, it tells us it's lunchtime. So forgot about that one. So really, we live 1,500 miles apart, and I will show you on the map where that's at. So North Dakota is right here where my finger is, and Washington, D.C. is right in this area. So again, 1,500 miles apart, but it still is a special thing to me since I was there. And I was actually planning to go to the arena here in April and then again this summer, but both of my trips were canceled. So hopefully I'll be back again another day. But today we are going to talk to you about nature, and we have a lot of nature here in North Dakota, as I'm sure you do where you live. It might look a little bit different, but we'll talk about a lot of those things. With me today, I have my family, who's actually all teachers. So I'm an elementary teacher. My mom is a math teacher and the principal. My dad is a Phy-Ed teacher, and then my sister is actually not a teacher, but she just graduated high school and will be a physical therapist. So we're actually going to talk to you about all sorts of things in nature. So we'll start out, what is nature? Well, nature's all around us. It's anything not created by humans, by people. It's grass, it's flowers, it's even just the sun and the air and trees, everything that you can find that's not created by people. So today we're going to encourage you to go on a nature walk, and we'll talk about things that you can do and see when you're on your nature walk. You can go on a walk, you can go for a run, you can go biking, take family with you. Just be safe while you're outside, but please enjoy the outside. Sun is so good for you. So while you are outside, we want you to think about the five senses. So we know that the five senses are vision, so seeing, what do you see outside? So many beautiful colors, things to see outside. Hearing, what can you hear? You can hear the wind, the birds, all sorts of different things. So pay attention to what you hear in nature. Also smelling. Right now we have really pretty trees that you can smell all the flowers on, and it's awesome smell right now. So we're really excited about that here in North Dakota. Also taste, what can you taste? Maybe some berries. I wouldn't recommend tasting the grass or anything like that, but try to think of things that you could taste while you're on your nature adventure. And then finally, touch. Touch is one of the cool ones because there's so many different textures. Some are bumpy, some things are smooth, some things are rough, hard, soft, all sorts of textures, and even the different leaves all feel different. So when you are on your nature walk, try to think about these five senses: vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and really explore them and see what you can find throughout this. So I'm going to turn it over to my mom, who again is the math teacher and principal at our school, and she is going to talk about things she's found on nature walks and a little bit about tying in the senses to those things. So ours might be a little bit different, but you will, when you're on your walk, see what you can find.
So as Hannah said, I'm Nancy, and I am a math teacher. And I like to do the things outdoors. I like the outdoors. And one thing we do here a lot is go for walks. We have only certain times of the year that it's probably better than others because our temperature is so much colder a lot during the winter months. So I'm going to show you some of the things that we found on different walks that we've gone on. I will show you a couple of things from our garden, our flower garden, and I do know that they do grow in the wild. And when you think about your areas might be a little more populated than our area here in North Dakota, but there are lots of places that you can go. There are parks, there are gardens, I think, in your area. There might even be some forests in different areas, and always be looking. What do you see? You don't necessarily have to pick it off a tree, but just notice all the different things that you can see in the areas that you go to. So I'm going to show you some of the things that we've found or collected on our nature walks, and then talk to you a little bit about the senses. So I'm going to start with the pine, okay? Our neighbor happened to actually cut down a tree at the back, so I took this one. I normally wouldn't peel a pine tree apart if I'm somewhere, but you do find branches all around. And this one happens to be a Colorado spruce, okay? So if you don't know what trees are in your area, I think that's an excellent idea. Do a little research, find out, maybe your moms or dads know what the types of trees are in your area. The Colorado spruce, if I were to touch it, if we relate the senses, touch is very prickly. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it's sharp and very prickly. When I see it, I see green, vivid green. Spruce that are dying obviously are brown, but these will be a nice green color. When I think of smell, I think of Christmas. They smell like Christmas trees when in certain times of the year, quite a bit they smell, or when they cut a branch off, you can smell that Christmas. I think you smell Christmas. Here, I don't know if you hear so much except when the wind is blowing. And again, we live in North Dakota where it's windy a lot of the time. So you can hear leaves and trees and things rustling through the wind. And I don't recommend you taste this one, but so I don't know if we would have the sense of taste with the Colorado spruce. The spruce, though, the seeds that come from it, you would probably see those in your parks or your forests. Or we actually have the pine cones. Okay, so you can kind of see the pine cones that relate to the different, and you'll find these on in a lot of different areas. They fall on the ground, drop to the ground. You can see on the trees where they've started. So, you know, that one was a Colorado spruce. So finding different types of trees. Another one that our neighbor happened to be doing some cutting, but this was a little bit different, and I want to show that too. And it's again, it's another type of an evergreen tree. This one's the ponderosa pine. Okay, long. You can notice the long needle. So this one, when you touch it, it's not quite so sharp as anything else. I mean, the ends are, yes, prickly, but I think of these as being nice, soft. So think about what are the senses when you look at the trees and the bushes. So that one, smell again, definitely smells of the evergreen. I call it Christmas smell. Hear it, you can definitely hear these in the wind. And they have a pine cone that falls off that looks just a little bit different. And these, I should have related the two. This first one that I had was a little softer. This one is sharper, a little more stout, fat sort of thing. When you touch it, there's some ends that often are a little bit sharp when you touch it. You see the brown in color. Okay, so it's a different color. It's definitely a darker brown. So those are our pines. Other things that we've found on our walks, and this is all over, and is moss. And I don't know, we have moss in lots of different places, of course, when it gets damp and wet. It happens to be in our backyard, where our backyard is very shaded, and in certain areas, of course, behind me it's not, but in certain areas it's shaded. And so the grass does not want to grow as well in those areas, and so we end up getting moss. And moss is, if we touch it, it's soft, okay? You see definitely a bright, or there's lots of different color greens to the moss that we have here. I've never really smelled moss. I don't know if it smells like a whole lot of things. And of course, it's not going to have any sound. Moss is just, you think of fairy gardens probably when you think of moss, and you're not, of course, going to taste this particular moss. Another thing that we've found on our walks, of course, traditional sticks. Everybody probably has sticks somewhere or another, and after the wind blows, we have a lot more that are laying in the ground, but there's always sticks to pick up, and that's, you know, something that everybody would definitely have, the sticks. In the trees, we have lots of birds, and I'm certain that you have the very similar kinds of birds in Washington, D.C. And that was the one thing that I will have noticed. So listen for the different types of birds or kinds of birds. And that's one thing I'm not very good at, and something hopefully I get better at, but you never know for sure the sound coming from what bird, but it is a piece of nature. And the birds, I think, in Washington, D.C. are very similar to birds that we have here. You have the finches and you have the sparrows, and you have, I guess, the great blue herons are at the lake when we're at the lake. You have nuthatches and chickadees. So see what birds that you can spot. And along with the birds, of course, comes nests. And the nests, when after the season has gone, they build their nests in the spring, and through the spring, then they use their nests. And then when the winter comes, we definitely see the bareness of the no leaves on the tree when our snow comes out, and we can find nests in the trees. And so I have a couple of nests to show today. And you would never want to take a nest when anything's in it or whatever, but I do have a couple of nests to show. This particular nest is a robin's nest. And if you notice, the robin decided to use a lot of different things. He found some garbage along with mud and grasses and built his nest. So this I know is a robin's nest. I watched him through the year, and then we ended up taking the nest down. Relating this one to the five senses, it's a little scratchy, and I don't know if scratchy is a correct word, but if you think about that, it is scratchy. You definitely see the cup or the bowl shape when we look at nests, so you definitely can identify by those things. Smell, not a lot of smell unless you want to think of the smell of dirt. Here, the only sound we would hear is if birds obviously were in a nest, doesn't make any sounds, and we would not want to taste that nest. I have a couple other nests that I'd like to show. Another one that we found is a teeny little goldfinch nest, and this one is made entirely out of grass. Goldfinches in North Dakota, so the birds that we spy are definitely yellow, bright, beautiful yellow in color, and make very big noises for themselves, but this would be a goldfinch nest. Again, it just feels like grass that they've woven or put together. You see it's a teeny or smaller little cup shape, and no smell, hearing, or taste, of course, that would go with a nest. And the last nest, and I just do some thinking, see if you see any bird's nests that are stuck to the sides of buildings. We have what are called barn swallows, and we don't have to have a barn to have a barn swallow's nest. That's just the name of them. But barn swallows' nests are really muddy and clumpy, and they stick them to the sides of buildings. Barn swallows don't live in trees. Instead, they're going to be in sides of the buildings, okay, on sides of buildings. This one happened to have some eggs left in it, so some didn't hatch, and you can see the bright white colored eggs in there. But I guess when you're on your walk, wherever you are, stop and just look around and see if you can see, oh my goodness, my daughter just found something in nature, and this is just a little closer. She just found a toad in our yard. So she just happened to be walking through the yard and she found a toad, and she will let it go. That was not expected or planned. So there you got something different from us. So yeah, we have things like that with some moisture that will come. I'm going to show you one other type of nest, and that is a wasp nest. And a wasp nest, don't take these down unless you have a parent there to do it and spray it, but you can definitely see the honeycomb inside. And a couple last things that we would see on our nature walk or have found would be feathers. And you guys definitely have feathers, blue jay, bluebird. Our trees, if you had smell-o-vision, I wish you had smell-o-vision right now, because we have beautiful flowering trees. In North Dakota, our season for beautiful things is very short, so we take advantage of every weather that we can. But I have flowering crab trees. You'll find I have a white and a pink one that we've seen. We have little lily of the valleys that grow wildly. We have lots of what we don't like here, dandelions, bright yellow in color. Some people's yards are full of them and others are not, but we have dandelions. And they all have different smells, tastes, touch. We do have grasses, and you can see lots of different kinds of grasses where you're at. And then the final thing that I want to show you, of course, you have lots of trees, but one thing we have in our area is we have lots of deer and things like that. So when we walk in kind of the winter time of year, we end up finding what are called sheds. So this isn't, they're big antlers. Well, this isn't so big, but they're called sheds. And you can see another, and we don't find those on the city streets, but those would be something you could look for in a forest. So when you go on a nature walk, definitely see those. The sheds can be bumpy, they can be smooth. You're not gonna taste them, obviously. You would hear antlers together, things like that when you go through nature. So we really encourage you to find and spy all the different things that you can see on your nature walk. Think about the senses as you look at the items. You don't have to collect them as we have done here, but that's one thing that you can do. So I will now turn it over to Bob, who is going to go through the rainbow.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to tell you about the rainbow. The rainbow is a natural phenomenon, a natural thing found in the sky. It's formed when raindrops actually have white sunlight shining through them, and they act like a prism. And what they do is they split apart the white light into the different colors. So the first color that they usually see is red. And I have a leaf here from one of our trees that has red on it. Another one would be orange. The next one is orange, and I have a rock that I happen to have found on our trip, and it is kind of an orange. It's a lighter orange, but at least it's orange. Another thing that we have that we just talked a little bit about are these dandelions. They're very bright yellow. Then we have green, and honestly, green is everywhere. The grass is green, leaves are green, all kinds of different green. If you remember correctly, the tree branches were green, or the needles from the tree were green. We have a lot of different greens. We have blue, which I wanted to show you on this blue jay feather, because blue jays are aptly named. They're very pretty blue. They're kind of a big bird, and their blue on their feathers is really kind of, it's shiny and bright. And then we have indigo. Indigo is a really dark purple, I want to say, and I'm looking for my indigo. Oh, here we go. Thank you. It's a really dark purple. I don't know if you can see that little tiny flower, but it's got indigo. It's a very dark purple. And the reason why these plant life is shriveled is because we picked them and they're starting to dry up. They're not getting any nutrients down through the stems. And then we have violet, which is the last color in our rainbow. So it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. You can remember these colors by using the name Roy G. Biv. And now I'm going to turn this over to Olivia, and she's going to show you something other than a toad this time. Maybe the toad will float, I don't know. We'll see.
Now, when you're on your nature walk, also look for the colors of the rainbow.
Hi, I'm Olivia. So now we're going to do a sink and float, and we're going to make predictions, which are guesses. And the first item is this toad. I'm going to see, my prediction is that he's going to float and probably even swim. Oh, and he is swimming around there. Now I'm going to let him go back into the nature. Then another thing we found on our walk was this bone, and you can see it's hollow inside. And my prediction is that this is gonna float because it's hollow. Oh, and it sank. Next, I will do part of the pine tree. And my prediction or guess is that it will sink. Oh, and this one floated. Next, I'll do a twig or a stick. My prediction is that this will float like the pine tree. Yep, it did. And then we have this tree cut out, and I think this one is gonna sink because it seems a little heavy. Oh, and that floated. The reason some of these objects float is because they're less dense than the water. Now I'll try an antler from the deer shed we picked up. Oh, that one sank because it's pretty heavy. And how about a rock? I think this one's gonna sink because these are pretty heavy too. Yep. And how about, this is called a hen and chicks. So I'm gonna see if this is gonna float. I think it's gonna float. Oh, and that sank, probably because it's pretty heavy. And I'll do this dandelion, and I think this one's gonna float because it's pretty light. Yep, it did. And the last one is this feather. I think this one's gonna float because it's pretty light too. Yep. So you can try the sink and float on your own too if you want.
And now I'm back. I have an art project for you to do. Now, you don't have to do this on paper with glue or anything. If you find some things out in nature, you could just even set them on the ground, or maybe you want to press them into some clay. But I have some things that I want to try and make something with. So I'm going to take some glue and just spread some out right here on my paper. And I like to use my finger a little bit, which kind of, I don't know, some people think it gets a little messy, but, and then I'm going to take some, I kind of like the feel of it. And then I'm going to take some grass and I'm going to press it into my glue. And I might need a little extra glue because I took quite a bit of grass there. And I'm going to just press it in there. And then I'm going to get the glue off my fingers so I can work with some stuff. And then I'm going to take a couple of rocks. And I'm going to take my rocks and put a little glue on them. And when you use glue, sometimes you have to let it stick for a little while. A good rule of thumb is 10 seconds, but with rocks, they're a little heavy. I think I would try and make it go just a little longer than 10 seconds. But I'm going to use this glue and I'm going to put those 3 rocks right there. This one's pretty heavy. I don't know if it'll stay. And then I'm going to take this twig. And this is a willow twig from a willow tree. So you can see that we can bend it without it breaking. Oops, I just broke the end of it. So I'm going to take and bend this a little bit so that's kind of in a little bit of a U shape, I suppose. I'm going to put a little glue on the side of this stick. It's kind of hard when you use so much glue. And I'm going to set that down on my paper. And I'm going to try and show you what I made here. So I made a troll. You could also take sticks, and I even used a blackbird feather, and I made my name. Again, I used willow sticks because I could bend them. And then I'm a fisherman here in North Dakota. I love to fish. So I decided to make a fish out of leaves. And if you look closely, you can see the scales, and the eye is made from a dandelion. And you can make one of these too. I was going to make a bluegill, but I couldn't find any blue leaves. We don't have any here in North Dakota. So those are my art projects that I challenge you to try and make. And Hannah will talk to you now.
Okay, we just have one little thing left. I am going to show you quickly again, if I can do it. A few examples of nature art that you can make at home. And do you see, if you could see to the side, they don't necessarily have them taped to paper. You can do them just on the grass or sidewalk like Bob has said. So here's a few other examples of nature art. So if you do see something and you want to make it, go ahead and do that and maybe take a picture and post it so we know that you have done it. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about quickly is insects. Now I picked an insect in all the colors of the rainbow. So we have a red insect, which is a ladybug. We have an orange insect, which is actually a monarch butterfly. Really cool butterfly. The yellow insect we have is a bee, probably one of the most important insects, even though we don't necessarily like them. The green one I have down here is a grasshopper. I have a blue dragonfly. Now we only see these for 1 week in June, but we do get to see blue dragonflies. And then the indigo color I picked is a beetle. It's kind of harder to find the purpley bugs, but I encourage you when you're on your nature walks, when you're biking, try to see what kind of insects and bugs that you can find and see if you can relate them to the colors of the rainbow. Now I wanted to talk to you quickly about bees. Bees are one of the most important insects we have because they help pollinate the flowers and they help the flowers grow. In North Dakota, we have many, many fields. We are a farming state, so we provide a lot of crops and fruit and wheat for our country. So we need a lot of bees to help pollinate the crops, to help them grow. If we didn't have bees, our crops wouldn't get pollinated and then we wouldn't be able to provide food. So, oops, before we go, I have one little art project you can do with very limited supplies. You just need a marker and your finger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually color my thumb yellow with my washable markers. And I'm going to stick it on the paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and take a black marker and I'm going to draw a few lines, a few wings, antennas, an eye, and a smile. And I have made a bee, but you can also make other insects real easily with just your thumb and markers. One final challenge we have for you is we took some bean seeds, or it could be any seed, and we have a plastic bag. With inside the bag, we soaked paper towel with water, and then we put the bean inside. We sealed the paper or plastic bag, and we put the seed up to the sun. So inside we grew this plant on our window, and you can see the bean seed has started to grow. So it started as a little seed, and now it's starting to grow. And eventually we'll start to open the bag and let it grow taller and taller. But the wet paper towel locks in the moisture and is just like soil. So this is another activity that you could do with seeds. Oh, I was gonna tell you, the purple could be like an earthworm too. Earthworms are kind of purple and they help the dirt move around. So I guess that's all we have for you. We are very excited that we got to do this here in North Dakota. We'll say hi to Coach Ty, and thanks for letting us join you today. And I hope you get out in nature, go for a bike ride, go for a walk, see what you can find. Think of your senses and the rainbow. So thanks again for letting us come. Again, it's Hannah, Nancy, Bob, and Olivia in North Dakota teaching you about nature today. Make some comments if you go outside. We'd love to see pictures.